Hey, Justin, should we just go ahead and start?
Are we good to go? Okay.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Joe. I'll be doing this for the next hour or so. I'll be doing a workshop on Thunkable app building. The main purpose of this part of the workshop is just to get you guys familiar with the Thunkable interface, how to use certain parts and components, and obviously how to do a little bit of coding to make the app more interactive. Obviously, by the end of this 1 hour workshop, you won't be professional app developers per se, but hopefully this is just a way of getting you guys one way of presenting an idea that you might have as part of the hackathon, right? So first off, we're going to talk a little bit about what apps are, what we use them for, and that kind of thing. So in general, apps kind of go into kind of three main categories. There can be informational apps, there can be tools or utilities, and there could be games, right? And sometimes they're a combination of the above. To give you an example, I've actually connected my phone. Okay. So this is live, my actual phone. Okay, hopefully you can see this. And you have apps, informational apps would be an example, things like the MTR app or Bus Times app, which shows you information, right? You don't necessarily need to put too much information in, but you do get information out, and it displays information in different ways, right? That's one example. Another example of a utility or a tool would be something like a calculator, right? Most phones have these. Camera apps, web browsers, all of that kind of thing have the capability to show you different things, right? And then obviously games are fairly straightforward. Most people have games on their phones in one respect or another, right? And sometimes things are a combination of the three things above, right? Now with this hackathon, it's based on education and stuff. So you can get games that are educational. For example, you might get a coding game or one that does words and letters and things like that. Okay. Now, for the purpose of this workshop, we are going to be building an app which is going to look something. Oh, here's one that I made earlier, which is basically what we're going to go through. So you can see here, there's a title screen with a button. We press the button, it goes into the app. Okay. There's another button we can tap. Okay, and then we can use this to take a picture of something. Okay, and hopefully if it's working, we're using a little bit of AI image recognition in order to come up with a description. Okay, and the description there also includes a confidence level, right? So according to this image recognition software, it says it's 69.44% confident that this is a desktop computer sitting on top of a keyboard. Okay, which is not bad. Okay, it's not bad. It's also got some tags there. Okay, and tags what the AI can see or what it might assign to these images when it sees it, right? Okay, so that's the basic thing that we're going to work with today. Obviously, throughout, I'm going to be showing you how things work. Hopefully, we can test it and show you how it happens on here too. Just stop that for a minute. Okay. Now, with the workshop, I am going to be going through the stuff, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along if you can. But if you can't, please don't worry too much. This session is being recorded, so you can always look back at the recording later on. And also with the Thunkable website, there is a lot of information, documents that have guides and how to use different things. So if you do get stuck, please don't worry, don't panic. Okay, you can always look back at the recording or look at the extra documentation. And this is a sway that we will be sending out to you. We're giving you the links at the end of the session. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead and start looking at Thunkable. Okay. Now, Thunkable is a free online resource that you can use to build an app. Okay. Now, let me sign out so we can look from kind of the very beginning. Okay. So when you go to Thunkable, okay, remember to use x.thunkable.com. Okay. x.thunkable.com. So that's the app builder, right? Because if we go to just thunkable.com, it's a slightly different website. Okay. Whereas if you go try to log in, it takes you to x.thunkable.com anyway, right? So if you start at x.thunkable.com, and you can log in through different ways if you have your Google account, an Apple ID, or with email. Okay. So depending on how you want to log in, you just go ahead and choose your options. I'm going to sign in with email because I have a Microsoft account. Okay, and then all you have to do is go to your email folders and find the link and open it up. Okay. You'll get an email with a link and then just have to click on it to sign in. Hopefully opens up. If not, you can. Okay. Once signed in, you'll have the opportunity to make an app. With the free accounts, you can make up to 10 different kinds of apps. Okay. Now, when you click on create a new app, now this part's really important. Okay, you have the option of using drag and drop interface. Okay, now this is a fairly new feature, and some of the components do not work with drag and drop. Okay, so I highly recommend not using drag and drop for the time being. So do not tick this box. Okay, I repeat, do not tick this box. So all we've got to do is add in a name. Okay, so I'm going to say image recognition. Okay, and you have to choose at least one category. Okay, usually it's not that important what you use it for. Okay, I'm going to use maybe utility. Okay, and all your projects under free accounts are actually made public. Okay, it's only the paid accounts that you can make it private. Okay, but there are so many apps out there, it's not too much of a problem that it is public. And then we press create. Okay. Now once you created the new app, your first thing you'll see is screen 1. Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about this interface here. On the left side, we have a list of things that are in our app. Okay, and right now we only have the one screen. We'll talk about this bit a little bit more later on. On the left-hand side here, we have an add components. Okay, and this has all of the things that you could want to add to your app. Okay, at the top here, we'll see screen 1 here, live test, share, make a copy, download, publish. Most of these are fairly self-explanatory. Okay, now on the right-hand side, okay, it has the item that we've selected, which is right now is screen 1. It's the only item we have. The name of the item up here, and then it has a list of properties. Okay, now this is the list of stuff that you can edit and change, which will affect how your app looks. Okay, so a lot of this stuff here, you can see, we'll go through some of it in a little bit. We will see how we can change what we see on the screen here. And obviously, the screen we're looking at now is the part 1 of our app. Okay, so part 1 of our app is how does it look, and part 2 of our app is how does it work. Okay, so we have design, which is this screen that you see now, and we also have blocks. Okay, now blocks is kind of like a Scratch-based interface that you can use. You can just drag and drop stuff, and the blocks are what makes things happen, right? So the design is just how it looks, whereas the blocks will make it interactive and be able to do things, right? So first thing we're going to do, okay, is in the design page, we are going to add something called a label. Okay, now a label is just kind of like a text box, right? So with the label, you have it here. We can change the text, and this is going to be my title. Okay, so I'm just going to put image recognition. Okay. Now with labels, okay, the things that we can change about it are the font size. If you want to make it very big font or very small font, up to you, right? There's no right or wrong way, okay? And then you can change things like number of lines you have that it takes up, the color. Okay, now note that here, the color refers to the color of the text. Okay, color refers to the color of the text. So if I want to have, let's say, blue colored text, I change the color to blue, then my text is now blue. Background color, okay, is the background of my text box, right? So if I change the background color to, let's say, gray, okay, you can see how it changes there. Now, one thing I will say is don't always think that this image or the view you see on this design page is not how it's not the final way it looks on an app or on a phone, right? So you can always use either preview here, okay, or live test. Sometimes things can look different on the app as when it's finished compared to how it looks on the design here. Okay, if I make this, do that. Okay, sometimes it would look different compared to how it is on here. So don't worry too much if something looks a bit off on your main screen here, as long as it looks okay when you do the preview and the live testing. Okay. So other things you can change: font style, font weight. So you can make it italic or normal. Weight is whether it's bold or how thick the writing is. And then align is how you want it aligned left, right, or center. Okay. Now, an important part here is the height and width of our text box. Okay. Now, this will also apply to other things like pictures or text inputs or anything else that you might want to put in your app. The height and the width. Okay. Now, the options we have are pick one of fit contents or fill container, which is these two options. So right now it's fitting the height of my box. It's fitting the contents, which is the text inside. If I change it to fill container, it will fill up the entire available space on my screen. Okay. So those are two options here, fill container and fit contents. We can then go to absolute size. Okay, an absolute size is you giving it a number of pixels for it to be. So if I put 100 pixels, okay, or 200 pixels, or 400 pixels, right? It changes the size of the box, but it's absolute. So regardless of how big your screen is, okay, with varying phone sizes or iPad size, screen size and stuff, okay, the box will always be 400 pixels, okay, which means that on some devices it might look very, very small. On some devices it will look big. Okay, now the way around that is we have some relative size. Okay, now relative size means that you're able to compare to the size of the whole screen. Okay, not just in terms of the screen you can see here, but also depending on the device the other user is having, right? So if I do 100%, obviously it fills the whole screen. If I want to do 50%, it's half the screen. If I do 25% or whatever, right? So you can set the height to be a fixed thing. So if I do 25%, then the width can be just fit contents, right? Depends on how big the writing is. Go to live test again, and you see here now image recognition And like I said earlier, sometimes it doesn't look the same here as it would when you test it or preview it. Okay. So right now, okay, the height was fixed to 25%. So this is a quarter of the total height of the screen. But the width was set to fit the text. Okay. So right now we have it only goes up to where the text starts and ends. Okay. Now if I want to change this to fill container, okay, the width, that was the width, fill container, then it means now that the gray part or the background color goes all the way across. Okay, it goes all the way across, and therefore, like personally, I like that a bit better. I don't like having the two white gaps on the sides, but again, this is your personal preference, right? How you want it to look is up to you. Okay, and then going further down, we have other things like margins. I'll talk about that in a second, and padding, right? Now margins and padding are if we have more than one thing. So let's go ahead and I'm going to add in another label. Okay. Now all we have to do is to drag the components from the left side here and just put it onto the main screen in the middle here. Okay. When we have that, we can then most of the time you can drag and drop on here. Now sometimes that's not working. You could also use this menu on the left here. Okay. You can use this to rearrange things more easily. Okay, you can see the orange line, and it just helps you to rearrange things on the screen. Okay, now the thing is with that, with this new label, okay, so I'm just going to add in using this as a subtitle. Okay, and again, always go to preview or live test to see how it looks. Okay. Now, right now, my screen itself is set to centered. Okay, so everything that I put in is now just getting clumped into the middle. If you want to change that, you can go into your screen itself. Okay, so click on the screen itself. You see the orange dotted line. It's now around the screen. You can change the alignment. So I can change it to the top if I want. Change it to the bottom. It depends on what you like. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at center. Okay, because as we add more things, it's going to push things up. So we can worry about that a bit later on. Okay. So now that I've added this subtitle, okay, I'm going to have a look at this margin and padding, right? So first, if it's filling the container, okay, the width, then it's right up against the edge here. Okay. Now what we can do is we can use a margin, okay, which adds space around the item. Okay, so if I add an 5 to the left, okay, and you see here that the margin I've added for the subtitle, okay, the margin is 5 at the top, so there's now 5 pixel gap above it and a 5 pixel gap on the left. Okay, now again, pixels is very relative and it will depend on the size of your screen. Okay, sometimes it will look tiny, sometimes it might look a bit bigger, right? So you have an option here. Whenever you have, you can put in measurements. You can change it from pixels to percentage. Okay, I always prefer personally to use percentage, just so that everything stays kind of relative to one another. Okay, instead of having to adjust to the screen, everything will stay in proportion and the ratios will look nicer, in my opinion, right? So I added in a 5% gap on the left side here and a 5% gap in between. And remember, this is a percentage of the entire screen, okay, of the entire height or width of the screen. Okay, let's preview it again. And we'll see that now there is a small gap in between and on the left-hand side, right? So instead of being right up against the edge of the screen, it's now got a slight indentation. Okay, now obviously another way of doing it would be to center the text. Okay, so back to text alignment. If you center the text, okay, let's see how it looks now. Okay, But then if you center it, then you need to make sure you take away that the margin on the left hand side, because now it looks like there's an extra gap here compared to here. Okay, it depends on how much you are concerned about that kind of thing. Okay, I took away the margin on the left now. Okay, I only have a 5% gap in between these two things. Okay, so that is margins. Okay, now padding is slightly different because padding is within the shape. Okay, so let's say right now, instead of aligning to the center, I align it to the left. Okay, but I want to add a small indentation here. I could use something called padding, which pushes it within the shape itself. Okay, so margins are around the shape, but padding is within the shape. Okay, so let's say I add a 5, let's add a 10% gap. Okay, now this is a 10% gap on this side of my writing. Okay, but it's from the inside left of the box. There's now a 10% gap. Okay, so you could do it like that if you wanted to shift it a certain amount. Okay, so I mean, these are different ways of achieving a similar result. Okay, so up to you, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Okay, you can play around with some of these different properties to see what suits what you need. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, remove the padding, and I'm just going to stick to alignment center. Okay, just for simplicity. There we have it there. Okay, our next step is to add in an image. Okay, so an image, we're going to put in, if you can't see it straight away, you can always use the search function and add this image in here. Okay, now notice that anytime I add something, it always goes to the top of the screen. Okay, this is by default, it'll go to the top. And like I said earlier, you can either try and drag it down on the screen interface here, or if that's not working, you can do it on the left hand side here. Okay, you can use the left hand side here to navigate and also select items and also rearrange items. Okay, so with this image, with pictures, you have kind of two options. You can either upload one from your computer, or you can type in a URL and take one from the web. Okay, so for example, if I go to our Cobra Cadio website, okay, I can try and take a picture, let's say this one here, just copy the image link, okay, and then paste the URL in here. Okay, that's one way. Okay, you can go to Google Images or wherever and find an image that you want to use. Obviously, think about licensing and things like that before you copy the link. Okay, and you can add the logo in, or you can upload a picture. Okay, so if you downloaded a picture onto your device, you could then upload the picture, upload the file yourselves, right? So I'm going to go ahead and choose the file to upload. Give me one moment. Okay, so once you've uploaded it, okay, you can then choose it here. It sometimes takes a while for it to show here, so don't worry that it's not showing up exactly right at the beginning. But we can have a look at some of the properties we have to change. Okay, the first is the resize option. Okay, now depending on what you want the picture to do, okay, you can stretch it. Contain means it will shrink the picture to fit the box. Okay, stretching it will be making sure it fills the whole box. Okay, repeating means it will tile itself, and centering would be centered in the middle, right? So you can choose the correct one, the one that you want to use. I normally use contain so that the picture keeps its kind of ratios and stuff. Okay, and then you can change the height and size of our okay. We can choose the height and width of our image. Again, I personally like to use relative size. So probably use relative size height. I'm going to go with 25% of screen, and then for the width, let's go with maybe 50. Okay, now again, it's going to look different on different screens, right? So if I go to preview, it might look a little bit different compared to how it looks. Let's go a bit bigger. Okay, and you'll see how all the things have been pushed up now. So as you're adding more things underneath, because our screen was set to center everything, okay, so the gaps are going to be at the top and at the bottom for now. Okay, top and bottom for now. Okay, and again, there's some white space in my picture, so I don't have to I don't have to add any margins there for now. Okay. And the next thing we're going to add is a small is a button. Okay. Now buttons are different from text boxes because from labels, because buttons can be tapped on or clicked on, whereas the labels can't. Okay. So you can go ahead and find a button and add it to your screen. Okay. And again, it's going to add to the top of the screen. You can try and drag it down, but sometimes it doesn't let you like this. Okay, so you can do it on the left-hand side here, where we just drag the button down. Okay, now buttons are very similar to text boxes, to labels, where you can change the writing it shows, you can change the text color, you can change the background color. Okay, you can even add a picture for the background if you want it to show an image instead of having writing. Okay, so for this one, I'll be something like tap to start. Okay, tap to start. Background color, use blue. And again, you want to preview to see how things look. Okay. And you might want to go a bit bigger. So to make your buttons bigger, usually you can just resize the font inside. Okay, and you can set the button to wrap around the text. Okay, you see here when I hover above it, it gives me the option to click on it. Right, I can tap on that button. Okay. Now with that, you can change things. If you want it to be like a full screen, full width of the screen button, you could. If you want to make it kind of a big chunky button, it's got a few options further down. Okay, which we haven't looked at before, which is border, radius. Okay, now the radius is this edge here. Okay, you can see that I have a curved button. If I want a square button, I could remove the radius. Okay, and there's no longer the curvature around the button. Okay, so the radius will help you change the corners, okay, to see how round. Can we go? Okay. So it was at 75, gives me a nice rounded corners here. Okay, now the border, there's no border around any of my shapes currently. Okay, there's no borders currently. Now with the border, you can add in, you have to add in a width. So to make it more visible, I'll do it around my image here. Okay, just to make it a bit more visible. Okay, with the border, if I add in, say, 5 border, okay, I can choose the color of the border. Okay, so maybe I want to do a blue outline just to make it, just to demonstrate it. Right now with the border, okay, obviously the bigger the number you put in here, the wider the border is. Okay. If you set it to 0 or if you leave it blank, then that means there is no border. Okay. Right. So this is page, kind of the home page or the front page that I'm making, showing you guys. Just going to do a few adjustments so that it's a bit nicer, in my opinion. Obviously, set a background color. Okay, so for every color that you choose, you have the option of using the kind of free selection here. You can just choose kind of the shade and the hue that you like, or you can find a hex code and put that in there, and you can even set the opacity or transparency of the color. Okay, so depending on how transparent you want it to be or how opaque you want it to be, that can be changed alongside with the RGB values and brightness. Okay, so I was originally using this color. So what I like to do is sometimes choose the color that I've used already and then slightly adjust it. So whether it's making it a little bit lighter this way and just finding a color that looks nice together. Right, so very, very light blue. Okay, for example. And this could be our first screen finished in terms of design. Okay. Obviously right now, if we go to preview or we go to live test, it doesn't do anything, right? The screen doesn't do anything. If we tap here, we can try doing all sorts of things. It doesn't actually try anything. Okay, it doesn't do anything. So what we want to do, first, press the plus button up here to add a new screen. Okay, so there's a plus button here. We can add a new screen. And when you add a new screen, you can have the option of choosing a blank screen. Okay, so it'll be completely empty, like our first one, or we can copy something from my screens. Okay, from my screens. So what we can do is, if we want to have a similar screen, okay, so sometimes you want to have multiple screens that have the same layout or the same components in them for consistency. What you could do is actually save this screen as kind of like a template screen, which you can then use in your next part, right? So choose the screen, okay? So highlight the screen, and then you can actually save it to my screens up here, okay? Save to my screens. Okay. So we're going to save this to my screens, and I'm going to name this, this is my title page. Okay.
Excuse me.
Hello, yep.
So my screen looks a lot more different than yours. So I don't have the saving option for the template thing.
Okay, you don't have this up here when you highlight your screen?
Yeah, it's not there.
Okay, are you using the drag and drop interface or are you using the original one?
The original one.
Okay, I might have to ask you to maybe send me a screenshot or something, but maybe towards the end, if you let us carry on for now. But your screen, okay, so make sure you are looking at the screen options, and you might have to scroll up to make sure you have these. So you should have save screen, save view layout, rename, and delete. These
Okay.
buttons at the top here.
Yeah, I'll try.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go into preview, okay, then you won't be able to select these buttons anyway. Okay, but make sure you go back to the edit and you see those screens there, right? So I just saved it to my screens. So what I can do is press the plus button up here now, copy from my screens. And when I press next, okay, I'll get title screen from here and press copy. Okay, so now I have two screens that are exactly the same. Okay, except one is called title screen, one is called screen one. Okay, now what you might find is that things can get confusing if you have multiple screens, especially if things have the same name because it's been duplicated, right? So what is a good idea for most of the projects is to rename stuff as you go along. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this one that's called title screen. Okay, I'm going to move that to the front now. Okay, that can be my first screen by dragging it on the left side over here. Okay, so you can rearrange even the entire screen by dragging it up and down like this. Okay, then for this new screen, this is going to be my picture taking screen. Okay, oh, I just realized I have spellings. Okay, okay. We're still going to use the different labels. So one is going to be really edit the things that you want. Okay. Contents and contents. Switch up here. Button at the bottom is going to say tap. So this second screen, okay. So first I'm going to rename the actual screen itself. This is going to be my image record. Okay. And the layout and stuff doesn't matter too much at this point. The only thing I want to do is let me change the background color so we can see that it's different. Okay. I'll change colors and stuff a bit later on, but the first thing we want to do is when we preview now, okay, we need a way of getting from one screen to the other. Sorry, just gonna. Like I said, we have to get from one screen to the other, right? Now there's a few ways of doing this, but the way we're going to try and add a little bit of code so that when we tap this button, okay, it goes to the next screen. Okay, when we tap this button, it goes to the next screen. So first we're going to add under the blocks is when do we want the code to happen? Okay, and you think about what you're doing. Okay, we are pressing the button. So you go to the button when the button is clicked. Okay, figure. Super simple. When the button is clicked, then what do we want to do? On the control, you can navigate to image recognizer screen. Okay. Super simple. Okay. When does something happen? What do we want to happen? Okay. When does something happen? What is the trigger or event that makes it happen? And then what do we want it to have? What do we want it to actually do? So when I preview that, okay, tap the button, goes to the next screen. Okay, and then we tap to take a photo with this one. Obviously, for better kind of navigation, you might want to add a second button here that says back. Okay, so sometimes you'll see there is a back button. Okay, and then we can rename the buttons here. So instead of saying button 1, button 2, we can call them, give them names so that it's easier when we come to the coding. Okay, so photo button, back button. Okay, so I've got a back button here. I can quickly code it so that when the back button is clicked, we want to navigate to title screen. Okay, so just the opposite of what I had here. Okay, it's a different button. So when I go to live test, okay, press the back button, goes to this screen, tap to start, goes to this screen. Okay, so you can easily travel from one screen to the other using buttons. Okay, obviously the button right now is not in a good place, so I'll quickly move it horizontal alignment. Gonna make it on the left. So see, this is for the whole screen, right? But I don't want it to affect the whole screen. So what I can do is, here's a quick tip. Okay, so obviously I want this button to be aligned left, maybe top left corner or something, right? But that's going to be different from the rest of the screen. So instead of having to adjust the rest of the screen to match, one quick tip is to use something called a row. Okay, I'm going to put this at the top here. Put the back button within the row. Now, usually what the row does, okay, you might have noticed that when we add things, everything is in a straight line vertically, right? So if you want to put things side by side, you could use a row like this, and then they'll be next to each other instead of in a straight line downwards. Okay, but the other good thing about the row is that you can edit it separately from the rest of the screen. Okay, so within the row, I can get this button. Let me just fit contents for the height. Okay, within the row, I can get this button to be aligned to the left. Okay, so that kind of means that this row can be justified or aligned differently from the rest of the page. And that means that it can be, and then for vertical alignment, that's just within the row, so that doesn't particularly matter too much. But if you do set the height to being a field container, okay, and then you set it to top, okay, then it will go right in the top corner. In the preview, you can see here, okay, but the size, but it's now pushed everything else down, okay, because it's filling the entire space that we have. Okay, so the more space you give it, the more space it will fill. So we can add in a little bit of margins or stuff below it to adjust for that. Okay, so if I add a 20% margin below it, you'll see that, okay, these are still pushed to the bottom, okay, but there's a gap in the middle here. Okay, and again, remember we talked about padding earlier. So if I don't want it right in the corner, okay, I can add some padding maybe to the top. I'll do a 5% top and 5% left.
How did you add the row again?
Okay, so it's a component on the left-hand side here. You just have to drag and drop it onto the screen. Okay, like the other components, just drag and drop it onto the screen. Okay, and you can edit the row separately from the rest of the screen. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if we have a quick preview now, okay, obviously we can't see the image here because there's no image assigned to it just yet. Just tap to start, tap to start. Okay, this is what we have so far. Okay, now obviously the main part of this app is the camera and the image recognizer. Okay, but those things are things that you can't physically see. Okay, you can't physically see the image recognizer. So that's why on the left-hand side here, under components, there is a list of what we call invisible components. Okay, and these things are stuff that you don't see that work in the background of apps. Okay, in this instance, we need to open our camera, okay, to take the photo, and then after we take the photo, we need it to process the photo to see what description the AI can come up with. Okay, now with this part, okay, so first thing we need to do is find the camera option. Okay, so you can search for here, camera. Again, drag it onto the screen. Okay, drag it onto the screen. If it doesn't add straight away, Okay, now what you'll find is it should add at the bottom of the screen. Okay, should be at the bottom of your screen down here. Okay, sometimes you might have to scroll down a bit to see. Okay, but it should be at the bottom of the screen, camera 1, because it's not something that you can physically see in your app. So it's an invisible thing here. And if you check on your list of things in your app here, you'll see invisible components. It's in a separate section. Okay, so that's the camera. As well as the camera, we also need to use the image recognition. Okay, so if you look for image, you'll see image recognizer. Again, add this into your app. Okay, and you'll see the image recognizer gets added here as well. Okay, camera and image recognizer, 2 things. Okay, and like I said, these are things we can't see, but we can use them within our app. Okay, so first thing we want to code. Remember, for the coding, you want to be in the right screen. So if I go to the blocks now for the title screen, all I have is that button. Okay, but if I go to the image recognizer, see the buttons here are different to the buttons I had here. Okay, so it's depends on the page you're in. Now, right now, okay, I've got row image 1, label 1, label 2, photo button. So label 1, label 2 is a bit vague. And I like to rename the things so that when you come to code it, it's a lot easier. So for this one, I'm going to call it description. Okay, and tags can be okay, and this is just for your own reference. Okay, so you can see, you can tell what is happening for each thing. All right, I'm just going to quickly add in. Okay, just for continuity. Okay, so we have an image here, and okay, so under the blocks, okay, we already have the when back button clicked. Okay, that's a separate thing. But now what we want to do is when we push this button, this photo button, we need to open the camera to take a photo. Okay, so under the blocks, we look for the button that we're pressing, which is the photo button. Okay, so when photo button is clicked, we then want to go to camera and call cameras take photo. Okay, now notice that this just says call camera 1 takes photo. It's quite a small block, but as soon as you drag it out to here, okay, it kind of populates with the rest of the block. Okay, so don't worry if you can't see this whole thing in this menu here, as long as you have this call camera 1's take photo. Okay, so after it takes the photo, it needs to know what to do after it takes the photo. Okay, so in terms of when we take the photo, now I've got an image on my page here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first replace this image with the image from the photo. Okay, so my image 1, I want to set the image 1's picture. Okay, and use the photo from here. Okay, so these 3 things are things that come from the camera photo taking. And drag this, okay, from here and add it to there. Okay, so you can add it from here into there in order to use that photo, okay, and kind of transfer it from the camera app part, and transfer it to the image recognizer. Okay, I transfer it to the image on the screen. Okay, at the same time, what we do also want to do is we want to bring it up in the image recognizer. So go to image recognizer, and you see call image recognizers upload. We use this, and again, it's a very big block. Okay, and there it is. Okay, call image recognizers upload. What image are we going to use? Okay, we're going to use the same image. So again, we can drag it from our output over here and drag it down here to the upload. Okay. Then once it's uploaded, what do we want to happen? Okay, so it comes out with these four different things: tags, description, confidence level, error. Okay, now obviously if there's an error, we can't do anything about it. Okay, but we can say that we want to have the description and tags to appear. Okay, description and tags to appear where our description and tags labels are. Okay. So for the description and tags, we can add it here. Okay, so for our descriptions label, set descriptions text, okay, to description, and then we set our tags labels text to tags. Okay, now with that, obviously it's very straightforward and common, but you'll see that what happens is that the word description will disappear, the word tagged will disappear. Okay, and depending on what you want, if that's what you want in your app or not, an easy way around this is to add in another box. Okay, so that this box is permanently here. Okay, where these two boxes can be permanently on the side here as titles, and you can have two other boxes that then add the information in. Okay. Now you can quickly duplicate stuff. So what I would do is add a row in here. Okay, put the description in the row, and then duplicate the description box. Okay. Now with this duplicated one, I'm going to rename it to description title and move it up to the left-hand side. Okay, so remember you can use this bit here. If it's difficult to move on the screen here, you can move it up here. So with the description, put the description on the left-hand side. Okay, and then this is what it looks like now is that there will be description, and then description will appear here, okay, on the screen, and then that's within the row. Okay, we can put them side by side like this. Add a small gap in between. Okay, and we can do a similar thing for the tags. Okay, what to do is add row. Okay, put down here. Okay, and then putting things inside. If it doesn't work on the drag and drop, dragging it here, you can always drag it on the side here. See the orange line goes to the side. That's underneath here. Okay, once it's in there, we can duplicate. So I'm going to duplicate this one here. Okay, but then move it into tags, and I'm going to put it. This one to title. Okay, so as a preview, okay, it'll looks a bit weird like this. Okay, obviously the rows need to be fixed. Okay, so right now it doesn't look good. So the main thing is going to be the height of the rows. So if I make these two fit contents, it should look a lot. Oh, not the width. Heights. Okay, two heights. Preview. Okay, then it looks a lot smoother in that sense. Okay. To edit. add a small margin below so that this changes. Okay. Now with this, obviously, you can't really test it using the website because it needs to have the camera. Okay. So what we can do when we go to live test, okay, you can actually preview the app on your actual phone or iPad. Okay. Now, in order to do this, you will need to download the Thunkable Live app. Okay, you can get it from the web store or from the App Store or the Google Play Store. And once you have that, if you're signed in with the same Google or Apple account, it will automatically work. Let me just quickly mirror my phone again so you guys can see. Give me 1 sec. My phone. Just here. Okay. Now with this, obviously we open up the Thunkable Live app. Okay, and if you signed in with Google, it will have the same. You'll automatically see the projects as when we signed in. Now I signed in with email, so I have to generate a code here. And using that code, okay, DSM EXLU, we put it in up here. DSM EXLU connect. Okay, and what we'll see is that all of the apps. Okay, so we see here all of the apps that I've made on that same account can now be seen in here. Okay, so this is the image recognition one. Okay, now obviously, can you see here that it looks very different to when we previewed it on the web page? And that's probably because my phone, like the size or the proportion of my phone is different. And that's why when we use the relative and the kind of the feel is very different for different, can be different for different devices. So do bear that in mind when you're building your apps. Now I can tap to start. It should work. Okay, I'm going to tap to take photo. There we go. Take the picture. Press the tick. Okay, so that's been replaced here. And then we've got description, open laptop computer sitting on top of a keyboard. And then I need to switch the title and the tags for the bottom part. So I'm going to press back. Okay, so you do need to do a lot of testing to find out if things go wrong. Okay, so this needs to be tags label. And I think we need to edit the size of this. We should fix size instead. Okay, so it's height. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, tense. We need to move it to the top. Okay, so with that, go to the screen and we can set the whole screen alignment to top. Okay, so we can do a live preview again. It does sometimes take a few minute or so for it to update, so it might not work straight away. If you do it here, do a refresh. Again. Okay. Unfortunately, if you do use things like camera and stuff, it is best to test it on an actual device rather than with just doing the live test on the app on the web version, right? So let's see. So now that that's pushed it up there, and that's because there's no photo there, right? To start with, but we can tap to take a photo, take a photo, upload it. Okay. Now see, as soon as it goes in, okay, you can see that it pushes my labels to the side here. Okay, it pushes it out to the side. So what we need to do, we need to limit the sizes of these text boxes, of these labels. Okay, we need to limit them, but we can add more lines. Okay, so we can add lines to it so that it spreads downwards instead of sideways. Okay, so let's head back to the design. So for this one, what I'm going to do is actually, to make it look nicer, is to change, instead of the width, instead of fit contents, I'm going to make it relative to the screen. So, so this side will only be 30%. Okay, and same for the tags. Make the title fit maybe 30%. Then the description here, change the limit the width relative to 70%. But I can scroll up to number of lines and add in just a number there, right? So it can go further down, but it won't go off the screen. Okay, and same with tags. The tags label here, you can change that so that the width is fixed by being a relative size. So if that was 30, let's make 60. So because this one is 30, then obviously plus 60 plus the 5 in the middle means we still have 5% on either side. Okay, 2.5% for the edges. Okay, so obviously the whole width adds up to 100% in total, right? So 60, 30, 5 in the middle, then 2.5, 2.5 on the two edges makes 100. Okay, now the other thing is, right now there is nothing happening on this picture here. So we can go ahead and find something to put there. Okay, now one website that I've included in the resources is something called icons8.com. Now, a lot of this stuff is you can get free icons that you can use. Okay, and these are pretty helpful, pretty useful when you want to add certain things into your screen. So I'm just going to grab this one here. Okay, and what we'll do is take this URL. Okay, obviously we don't need the whole URL. We just need to have the image. This into the source here, so there's an image there. That's horrible. Okay, but just as a way of having something in the middle there. I don't want to. This one's better. Change that. Okay, so just to have something there so that it's not completely empty. Okay, here we go. So that is pretty much what we have there. Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to have to stop there. I do want to add in that there are lots of other things you can add to the app. Okay, so you know, some apps have tabs along the bottom that you can tap on to change pages. Instead of using a physical button there, you can just have things along the bottom. Okay, that's known as bottom tab navigator. Some have it along the top. Some have a draw navigator. So draw navigator means you kind of drag from the side, and then you get a menu that you can choose. So you can also use that. You can add any of these to your app and then add the screens to it. So if I maybe quickly show you the draw navigator. Okay, so by adding draw navigator, I then need to take the title screens, put it inside the draw navigator, image screen inside. Okay, now what that means is when we have the app, okay, we can drag from the side and have this menu come out. Okay, and we can choose between the different menus. Okay, now with most of the objects and stuff, do have a look at the properties and things like this, because there's lots of stuff you can customize and change. So for this one, it's like active tint, active background color, inactive tint, inactive background. So it depends on which screen you're looking at. It will change the colors. Okay. Now the sway that we showed you earlier, okay, we're going to share this link with you guys so you guys can see it. Okay, there are a couple of tools on here, and one other tool, if I can just show you this one here. Okay, it's called Paleton.com. Okay, now this is a great way of kind of finding colors that that match and stuff like that. So all you have to do is choose a base color. Okay, so whether it's so you can choose a color. So let's say you want to do kind of green, whether it's more pale or light or really rich and dark. But you can find colors that kind of go well together or kind of match it up. You can change to different colors, and this is just one color. If you use multiple colors, like this one, you can choose like what range of colors you want to add, and it can find you kind of nice colors that kind of go well together or balance each other a little bit. So within one page, you might have this, or you might use a combination. So I used this when I was building the example that I showed you earlier, the first example, in terms of this one has kind of the background, highlighted bits, and then changing the background on the second page plus the buttons, stuff like that. Okay.
Can I take a screenshot of your code?
Yep. So I'll probably show you this code is better. Okay. So the only thing I've added on this code is that there is a I've added the confidence level to combine with the description. Okay. Confidence level combines with the description, and that way it shows the percentage. Okay. So I don't know if you guys remember when I first did the demo at the beginning. Okay, it showed that. So this is one way of doing it, and all of this stuff is actually a part of the resources that we're going to share with you guys. Okay, so the link for the resources is, let me put it in the chat. And I can add a screenshot in the chat for you guys as well. Okay. So if you guys can follow, see the just the chat. Okay. So here is the list, the sway that I showed you guys at the beginning that has all the links and stuff on it. Do have a look at that, and there is lots and lots of documentation and like YouTube tutorials and stuff for Thunkable. So don't worry too much if you missed anything or if you're not sure about anything. And again, with Thunkable, there's so much stuff that you can do. You're not limited to doing an image recognition app. There's other AI services, whether it's translation or anything else like that. You can also do that too. Okay, so if you look in the chat, you should see the link that I put for the resources for the sway, and also a quick screenshot of mainly the image recognizer code that you need for that to work. And finally, if you do have any questions, okay, my name is Joe. This is my email. I do use a Discord as well. If you guys need to drop me a message or show me screenshots and stuff, it might be better on that. If you do have questions about anything or if you need some help, feel free to let us know. I'm not sure yet what the mentoring situation is, but I may be able to help out for that as well. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Burning questions? In that case, I think we're gonna stop it there.